everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Our box of Dodge caliber parts has arrived, so we're going to have a go at fixing this thing. Just to refresh your memories from our last Dodge caliber video where we serviced it and checked a few things out. The left front wheel bearing is shot, so I'm going to change them both. The water pump is leaking, so I'm going to change the water pump, and at the same time I'm going to change the accessory drive belt because that was recommended in our list of in our service book. And we have to change the cabin air filter. I didn't have one of those, so I got one of those. So we're going to get started. First thing we have to do is get the knuckle off. So we want to take the caliper off. So you just stick a screwdriver in there and you pull the caliper back. That pulls the piston back in. It just gives you a little, you can see there, a little wiggle room. It makes it easier to get it off and a heck of a lot easier to put it back on. Let's see here. These bolts going to come out. Wait. Man, nothing like working on cars from the rust belt. There we go. And then you just give her a smack. And that gets it off. Now we'll take out these two bolts. And we can get our caliper adapter off. Note, the caliper is hanging from a bungee cord. It's not really a good idea to leave them hanging by the hoses, although, you know, I've done it on occasion. There we go. Now we can pull the rotor off. Alright. Now we're going to steer it all the way to the right. And take out these two cotter pins. This is the one for the axle nut. And the other one is back here for the tie rod end. Now, if your car has the original tie rods on it, you won't have this one, because your original one will have a locking nut on it. But these ones have already been changed. And when you change them, you end up with a castellated nut with a cotter pin. Wow, that's really stuck in there. Oh, here it comes. Okay. Alright, that's the nut off the tie rod. Now, here's how to get these apart. Let me see if I give you that. So we're going to take our big hammer and just smack it right there. And that will come right out. Ta-da! Now, that's good. Tie rod is still good. So now what we've got left to get out is the, oh, that's nice. The pinch bolt down at the bottom. These two bolts that hold the knuckle. And we're going to have to come up with a plan to deal with this wheel speed sensor for the ABS. I doubt we'll be able to get the sensor out of the knuckle, so I'll probably have to unplug it in the engine compartment and feed the wire down, and we'll deal with it once we've got the knuckle off. I got the pinch bolt out of the bottom. I took the nuts off these bolts here that hold the knuckle to the strut. They've got a little bit of a spline on them, so you just knock them out like that. Then you give the end of the axle a tap. You can see that's free there. Like so. And then you just kind of lift up on the knuckle. I need a bigger piece of brass. That's really in there, eh? Get the big brass. There we go. When in doubt, give it a clout. Aha! We got it off. Very good. See you at the bench. First step before we get the bearing out of the knuckle, we got to get the hub out of the bearing. So we straddle it across two pieces of 6x6 like you see here. We get on some safety glasses and find an appropriate thing, and it's not in there that tight. A few whacks and out she comes with half the bearing. Now you can see here there's a kind of a big snap ring that holds the bearing in to the knuckle. So we're just going to use a punch and a hammer and start working that loose, because we probably won't be able to just grab that with a snap ring plier. Let's see. All right, there it goes that way. See if we can free it up the other way. There we go. Now I'll get my big snap ring plier kit out and get that thing out of there. You need a big set of these things and a little kind of well-placed screwdriver pry to get it out, but it's out. Now we can get the rest of the bearing out. But we have to be careful, because you can see right there is the sensor for our ABS tone wheel. So I have to figure out kind of how I'm going to do this, but we'll come up with a way. So the next thing we've got to deal with is when we got the hub, the first step, you can see that the outer inner race of it stayed behind on the hub, and we got to get that off. So here's how we do that. There is a nice little tool you can buy that draws it off, but of course I don't have one of those. So we're going to do it the backyard mechanic way. So I start with a 15/16 impact socket sitting in the vise. So this thing sits on it, but the diameter of that is smaller than the diameter of the hub. So when this bearing falls off, it's got somewhere to go. Then we just get a socket that fits through there, right? Put a short extension on it and drop that sucker in there. So now this thing sits here and we can twirl it around, right? Next step, we're going to grab the cut and torch. And I got my cut and torch glasses on. We'll get this fired up. And we should be able to just heat this while we twirl it around, and eventually that race will just drop off. I was lazy. I tried doing this earlier with the little brazing tip on here, and it just wasn't putting enough heat into it. So we'll try it with the cutting head, and that should do it. There it is. It's come halfway down. There we go. Ta-da! Now we'll just let all this stuff cool off and then we'll put her back together. Now we're going to put the bearing in. Safety glasses. So we've got the knuckle kind of sat in the press. It's a little awkward getting stuff like this in the press because you've got arms and stuff sticking out and you want to be able to push down on it without bending or breaking those off. So here's our new bearing. And it's got an inside and an outside. So the one with the rubber seal, that's the back. That goes down in first, and behind this rubber seal is the tone wheel for the ABS. So we got to make sure it goes in that way. See, that's the way it came out. Rubber seal in. Now, what we're going to do is, I got this stuff. It's lubricant for working on the press. It's called Fluoroglide. So we'll get that set on there. And then we're going to use the old bearing upside down. So we're pushing race on race. And then there we go. A little piece of flat plate. Maybe I'll get something thicker. Maybe we'll use this one. Right? And then this thing should just go right in. It says here. This is a 20-ton press. Sometimes I wish I had a bigger one, but this is the one we have. We also have over there a small little 2-ton press for doing fine work. If you only want to break small parts, you use that one. This one's for breaking big parts. And down she goes. You'll see it there. It's straightened itself up. So once you get it started a little bit, just release the press, and that'll let everything kind of, you get side loads on stuff. That'll relieve that, and we can go ahead and push our bearing down into the knuckle. The further in it goes, the more it takes to push it. There. And you can feel it when it bottoms out. There you go. Now we'll go over to the vise and put the snap ring back in, and then I'll show you how to push the hub back into it without wrecking our new bearing. I got the ring back in, but it was a bit of a gong show. But I learned how to do it. So when I do the one on the other side, I'll show you how I do it. All right, we're going to go ahead and get this big snap ring in. So my snap ring plier here, I'm going to try it before I go to plan B. But it certainly wouldn't work on the other side. Well, we'll see if it'll work on this side. I need one maybe just a size bigger than this. It just doesn't want to grab the thing. Yeah. Okay. The heck with that. So this is how we're going to do it. Now, you can work around it. You just get it started in. You get a small hammer. We're going to need a small screwdriver. And watch, because these things will fly. Safety glasses, people. And you just kind of... You get your screwdriver in there to kind of hold it, and you just start tapping it in, and around you go. And then when you get to the end here, you grab a little punch. Whoop. There she is. And then once it's in, you got to make sure it's seated. Okay? So we go like that. We get it seated. And there you have it. She's going nowhere. Now we'll go back to the press and push the hub in like we did on the other one. And these things will be ready to go. All right, now we're going to press the hub in. A few things to note. When we press the hub in, we have to press on the inner race. Otherwise, we stand the risk of pushing the rear center race out, and that's bad. We don't want to do that. So what we've done is stacked up a few things, and we have to make sure we avoid hitting the tip of the wheel speed sensor. That is bad. So we've got that stuff stacked up in there, and that should be good. No, see, it's not tall enough. I need more stuff. So what we'll do is use our old bearing. There we go. That'll be plenty of stuff. Now we can stack that in there. Now I've also checked to make sure the hub, the back of the hub, does not extend through there, so we don't have to worry about bottoming this out. So we're going to put some more spray here. Wow, I hope this thing is high enough. That could be our next problem, eh? No, we're good. Okay, now we'll put this thing in here. There, and we can press the hub down. A little tip, if you hack around with a press, never throw away little round bits of metal. Old bearing races, anything that you find like that can be very useful on your press. For, you know, mocking stuff up and getting stuff stacked up so you can use it like we've done here. And you'll notice there's the dust shield for the brake is not there because, well, it was all rotted out. And I checked at the dealer. The only way to get a new dust shield is to buy the entire knuckle with the bearing and hub and everything for over $300. Isn't that an efficient way to repair your automobile? Jeez. So, there we go. You can feel there she's bottomed out. And that's all back together. Beautiful. Here you can see the pitting on this ball. There's our noise. And this one, that one's got some on it. That one too. So this bearing was, well, not long for this world, eh? Now we can put it back together. All right, so we've got both sides all put back together now. What we have to do yet is I've got the wires for the wheel speed sensors run back up through the aprons. And we have to get down in here. The one plug is down in there and the other kind of on the same side. Get them plugged back in, put the air box and everything back on. You got to make sure 100% you get all these bolts and stuff tight. Whatever car you're working on, make sure you get the service manual for it and get the torque specs and tighten them up properly. I do have to admit, I'm pretty confident with my Ugga Dugga gun, and I blasted most of these up to where I know they're tight. Another thing also, you have to make sure you get this thing tight, or your wheel bearing, your new wheel bearing will not last very long. This pulls it all together. The back of the CV joint, or the front of the CV joint, pulls against the back of the bearing, and this pushes the hub into it and keeps everything tight. That's very important to get this thing tight. And the last thing you got to do is, because we've had this all apart, you got to get in and pump your brakes back up, because watch, this thing's going to go, because I pushed the pistons back to get them apart. The first time I pump it, it'll go right down to the floor. And if you just hop in this car and start driving, you get a big surprise the first time you stop. So look at that, point right down. So we'll get the brakes pumped up. There we go. Now we got a nice hard pedal again. It's pushed the pistons out and we're good. Well, I guess that's it for the wheel bearing portion of the video. All I've got to do is take it for a ride, make sure the noise is gone, And I want to make sure I don't get an ABS light. Hopefully we got the right bearings. They look like the right bearings. They seem to have the tone ring in them, but it is covered with a rubber coating. So until I drive it and see no light on, I'll always be a little nervous. And once we've accomplished those two things, I'm going to bring it back in and we'll set it up and check the toe. I'll probably do that at the tail end of the cooling system video because I'll have to road test that too. So in the next video then, we're going to change the water pump, change the drive belt, change the cabin air filter, and road test it and check the toe. Anyway, until then, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the Claremont Classic Garage. Bye for now.